Howdy, how's it going? Welcome to my channel, Jessica in Progress. My name's Jessica, and today we are gonna do a little bit of a rant review, in-depth review, and go over everything from Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. Now, I'm a bit of like a walker and ranter. You know, I pace and I stuff. So I'm gonna let myself be in the element. I made a bunch of notes so I wouldn't forget anything. And I will say that this is the second time that I'm going to be recording this. The first time I did it, no notes. And then when I watched it back and then I kept thinking about the book, I was like, no. I have to do it differently. So we are going to structure this video. We are going to start with just a brief synopsis of Immortal Longings, and then we're gonna do my own little review of it, okay? Then I'm going to explain the world to you. Now, in the world explanations, I pretty much don't have any spoilers in it, so you don't have to like leave for the world explanation. And then we'll get into the spoiler part. I don't blame you if you don't stick around. With that all said, let's get in to Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. Now, for those of you who don't know, Immortal Longings is inspired by Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare. Now, most readers are not going to go to the inspiration material, you know. At most, they'll look at the spark notes for it, or maybe look up a YouTube video review of Antony and Cleopatra. There aren't many. I looked. And maybe even more in depth, they're gonna go to actually read the play, which I thought about. I even brought out my anthology to start reading, started reading the introduction of it. Speaking of which, I'm gonna quote a bit of the introduction, so I need to go get my anthology from my desk. Anthology, got it. Okay, so I wrote a bunch of notes. If you can see, it's a bunch of them, and this is before we even get to the spoilers. So I'm thorough, I'm ready, I'm prepared. Let's go. So I originally thought that I was actually going to read the play of Antony and Cleopatra, and then I was like, no, that's overkill, especially when I read the introduction, which states, what if Shakespeare had had second thoughts about Romeo and Juliet? He might have tried something different. In this version, the lovers, neither youthful nor married to each other, conduct a long-standing adulterous relationship. Okay, so basically Antony and Cleopatra is Romeo and Juliet, but more adult. Now, there are a lot of differences, so we basically have to worry about Antony. He is like the Prince of Rome or something, and Cleopatra, you know, Queen of England, Pharaoh of England. So, and Cleopatra, smart, sexy, beautiful, and very manipulative. Okay, so we also have Antony, who is, you know, part of the thing of Rome, and basically the entire play he has to be like, do I have my responsibility to Rome, or do I have my love for Cleopatra? Okay, so the play starts essentially with Antony and Cleopatra already kissy way too much in love, ignoring everything, right? Antony currently married, but he's about to find out that his wife is dead. Octavius Caesar is like, bro, you need to get back here. Your wife just died trying to do, you know, some things to get your attention, because we all know that you're over in Rome, you know, in love with Cleopatra. You need to come back here. So Cleopatra's like, no, Antony, don't go. She manipulates him to being like, okay, I'll come back, I promise. When he goes, he gets like married off to Octavia, you know, Octavius's sister or something, I don't know. And then Cleopatra gets all grumpy jealousy, and there's this whole thing about responsibility over love and also obsessive love, and it's a tragedy, so they all die in the end. Now, one other context from Antony and Cleopatra before we move on is the quote of which that inspired the title, Immortal Longings. Now, this is from Cleopatra's death scene, her suicide scene, where she, does the thing. Act 5, Scene 2, line 277. Cleopatra says, "Give me my robe, put on my crown. I have immortal longings in me. Now no more the juice of Egypt's grape. Now no more the juice of Egypt's grape shall moist this lip." Basically saying she didn't kill herself. She's not gonna drink wine no more, because Antony has died in her arms from his own, suicide attempt where he stabbed himself. Oh my God. Because, Antony has died from his own attempted stabbing himself very badly. So he goes very gruesomely, very longly. And anyway, that's Antony and Cleopatra. Everyone dies. It's tragedy. So now we move on to Immortal Longings. Let me tell you what this book is about. So, Immortal Longings, okay? We are in this dual city area called Saint-Cyr, and at this time, there are death games happening, right? They don't have a name. They're just called the games. Okay, so these death games are happening, and at the same time, people have this ability, not everyone, but some of them, most of them in the book, have this ability where they can use their ki, Qi, their soul, essentially, can leave their body and go into someone else's body. And so long as their ki is stronger than the other person's ki, and that person doesn't have another ki in them, a second one, they can take over that body and walk it around like it's theirs. So, that is basically the world setup. There's more to it, of course. We follow Cala. She is the Princess of Air, right? Now, 5 years ago, she murdered her entire family. Why? We don't know. The public was told that she is dead, but King Kasa knows that she is not and locks himself in the palace because he knows that he's next. Now, Cala, she is entering the games 5 years later. Why it took 5 years, I don't know. She's entering the games now. And her goal is to win the death games, be the last person in the death games to be living, so she can shake hands with her uncle, the king of Saint-Cyr, and chop off his head. That's her goal. Now, Anton, a second player in the games, he is drowning in debt from taking care of his old love, Ada, who is currently in a coma that she will not recover from, right? We all know she is not going to come alive from this coma. She is going to stay in a coma. So he is also an exile, right? He was exiled. He no longer has a body. He is a ki that is bodiless, a chi that is bodiless. What am I going to call it? A ki. I'm going to call it a ki. He is a ki that's bodiless, and he just takes over bodies all throughout Saint-Cyr so he can keep paying his medical to keep Ada alive in her coma. Now, because he jumps all the time, he's got very strong ki. From what we can tell, he has never been rejected from a body that he is able to enter. We also have adopted Prince August. Now, August, he wants the throne. He thinks King Kasa doing a terrible job. He's not wrong, granted, but he says the coup must not come from him. That way, the people will accept him as king. So, he figures out that Cala is in the games. He seeks out Cala and is like, do the thing, and I will pardon you, and then I will be king, and you will be okay. He also has a bodyguard, literally, named Gallipy. It's a dude. Okay? Now, I don't want to start off this review by comparing it to the Hunger Games, but I'm gonna, okay? And the reason why I don't want to is because Hunger Games is far superior in what it does and sets up and talks about. But let's continue. Its similarities to Hunger Games are battle to the death because everybody poor. 2, everybody poor except at the palace. 3, there is a Rue-like character. And 4, political intrigue, maybe? I mean, in Immortal Longings, we don't really get that much political intrigue despite what they want to say, that is. Because it's not that developed and it's not that well thought out. It's just like, ooh, political intrigue. And you're just like, what is it? And it's like, political intrigue. But it doesn't go any farther than that. So let's get through the 4 things that this book is trying to do, right? It's trying to do 1, a battle to the death game. 2, a bodies don't mean anything game, and I can jump out of bodies, you know, jumper fantasy powers. 3, it's trying to do political intrigue and, you know, poverty versus ruling class. And 4, it's trying to do an obsessive love angle. Now, if you're coming to this book looking for a death game, I'm sorry, Battle Royale. This, not your game. Not the focus. It is set dressing. We barely talk about it. There are no real implications for it. Okay? Like, it's literally, like, of course it's a plot device, but it's literally a plot device because Chloe Gong probably couldn't think of something else to get Calla in front of the king that was also gripping. Okay? If you want a book that does a lot of jumping through bodies and being like, this is what it's like to be in a new body every day, doesn't do that. Our main character doesn't really jump. Our second main character jumps a lot. We don't get any information about what it's like to move from different bodies. And also, if you can do it, the body that you inhabit probably can do it too. Like, I was sitting there doing one of the fight scenes and I was just like, how are we sure that this body can pull off these moves with that strength? It just does. Okay, now, if you're trying to get a book that delves into political intrigue, sorry, again, you'll be disappointed because we don't get that many interactions with King Casa. And we don't get that many interactions with August and King Casa. Okay, so we barely get what the king is doing wrong. You know, aside from being terrible king, hoarding all the wealth, everyone is poor, and also he's a coward and hides in his castle and also doesn't want to deal with any of the other political intrigue stuff. Okay. Also, this world, as much as this book is made to set up the world and develop the world, it doesn't really do it that much. We know that the people outside of the city, the rural area people, they are poor, 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 can't eat, poor. And they make their way to the city, right, for the opportunity to, guess what, continue being poor, but also drown in debt and also be surrounded by neon lights and trash. A lot of trash. A lot of trash. We just know that the king is bad. We don't know what Calla wants to do after she dethrones the king. Is she an anarchist? Is that it? And we don't get much about anything outside of our twin cities, San and San. Okay? Now, if you want the obsessive romance between Antony and Cleopatra forced in this urban fantasy, you will also be disappointed because these two don't have any chemistry. Like, no chemistry. Are they obsessed with each other? No. There's barely a small hint of like, ooh, maybe jealousy, but it's not really there. And again, no chemistry. Also, Calla and Anton's personalities are not fleshed out enough. And also sometimes I feel like their personalities are wrong for everything else that is going on with them and everything else that we have seen them do. Like the one time, Anton is just like, yeah, I'm happy for no reason. I just want to be happy. And I'm just like, this is out of left field. That's never been your character. At least not in my opinion. Also, there's like very little pining. There's very little longing. There's very little manipulation from Cleopatra. There's very little obsession. Like, we don't really see these people obsessing over the other person. And also, the one steamy scene that we get is more of a creepy scene than a steamy scene. Not only was it like not a good sex scene, and their sex scene really just made me wonder more about the world when it came to like, you know, sex, pregnancy, STDs, whose kid is it if someone has sex with 2 keys in it, you know, parental responsibility, STIs, like, what are we doing here? I also want to talk about how this is a world where the old gods have basically blessed everyone with this key and this ability to jump, and the old gods have also, you know, crowned the royals. So, one thing that I pause to think about is why is the city set up the way the city is? And now I remember where I put that. So let's move on to the world building and the rules of the world, okay? We need to start first with the jumping ability, right? Now, it pains me that one, the games don't have a name. Granted, Hunger Games is named the Hunger Games. It still has names in it, games in it. But I would have liked the Battle to the Death Royale, whatever, games to have an actual name, right? Another thing that I would like to be named is the people who have the ability to jump. Because not everyone can jump. It is said that it is a gene of which is carried around in people. So not everyone can jump. There's also a different type of jumper called a Westinian. So they get a name, right? And these guys, their body acts as if they already have 2 keys in them, so they cannot be invaded. Now, when we look at them, they have silver eyes. That's how we know that they are a Westinian. Okay? So, these Westinians are also typically the King's Guard. It's a disgrace if they're not the King's Guard and they step away from it, but whatever, what have you. We only see them really as King's Guardsmen. Let's move on to the few rules of jumping. Now I'm going to hold my notes for this so I don't miss any. 1, you must be within 10 feet of whoever you're going to jump into. 2, the body must not already have 2 keys in it. 3, your key must be stronger. If your key is not strong enough, you will be shot back to your body. I'm assuming it's the body that you were just inhabiting, because it could, honestly, if you were inhabiting someone and jumping from a 2-keyed body, leaving that body, making it a 1-keyed body, into another, and you fail, would you always go back to the one that you were just in, or would you go into maybe the closest one? Anyway. 3, the only thing that you bring with you to your new body is your eye color. Now, I like that there are so many different eye colors in this world. Like, we got pink-eyed person, we got violet-eyed person, the royals are all yellow-eyed, Anton and August both have really black eyes, you know, the Westinians have silver eyes, so all of the iris colors are there. Genetically, whatever, but I like it. Now, everyone knows when you jump, because when you jump, your key basically shines a light the entire way over to its next body. So we see a flash of light as you jump. It's very blinding, so blinding the cameras that are watching you for the games do not catch it. If you stay in a body that's not yours for too long, and there's another key in it that you have dominated, that key will eventually fade away and die, and you will become a one-keyed body again. If you jump back to the same body multiple times very quickly, and or are forced back to your body multiple times very quickly, you could develop something called the Yauza sickness. Y-A-I-S-U. Okay? And it basically burns your body up from the inside. There is no cure. And finally, your key is what ages and gets sick, okay? You got cancer, you move to another body, the cancer follows you. Your other body, cured, okay? You, 85, jump into a 10-year-old, you're still 85. Goodbye. Now, before I move on with other jumping things, you know, in the very beginning of the book, there is this thing about protective charms to stop someone from jumping into your body. It is brought up the one time, never brought up again, and dropped. Do with that what you will. Now you would think, right, you would think that a world built around these jumping rules would be made a certain way. At the very least, you would think the buildings would be far apart, right? Wrong. Wrong. The buildings, tall skyscrapers, are so close that you could jump into someone in the other building. So close that if you were standing at the edge of your building, you could jump into someone else. Okay? You would also think that this world would make it easier to recover should someone steal your body from you without your consent, obviously, and then do something malicious with your body. No. Public service, what? No. Public health, what? No. Public transportation? Forget about it. No. Who's that? Now, of course, we can't have public works, because then it wouldn't be the gritty urban dystopia that we want for this book, obviously. Okay? Now, back to the buildings, because this is also a world building thing. The buildings are said to be so close together, that you can't sit on the sidewalk without blocking the entire street. It legitimately says that homeless people literally hang out in the stairwells and other abandoned buildings and rooftops, because the streets are too crowded, too cramped, and covered in trash. What's garbage control? Honestly, what's garbage control? We're just gonna throw it out the window. It's gonna fall on the floor, and it's gonna stay there. Literally everything covered in trash. So they do one thing to protect you should your body be invaded, okay? And that is giving you a personal ID number. Think your social security number, you know? They give you a personal ID number that you are not to share with anyone, that you have to memorize yourself, you know? And that's how you know, access your home, access your bank account, enter into the games, you know, anything important. That's what you use it for. Okay. I'm gonna go let the dogs back in. And then we'll talk about the game that's going on and the rules thereof. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so the games, right? Again, games don't have a name. They also aren't in a coliseum. They aren't in a building. They aren't in a palace. They aren't structured in any way. They have no real events except for the opening of the game and the closing of the game. And yeah, so you can enter the games. It happens once a year. There are 88 players. Why 88? can't tell you. Just a random number picked from the air. There's probably a reason. I don't know it. I'm not Chloe Gong, and I'm not doing any more research than looking at Antony and Cleopatra. You know? Because the average reader, not gonna know. So, 88 of everyone who goes are selected to win a bunch of money, right? Now, Daquin, D-A-Q-U-N, is the opening of the games. It's basically the cornucopia in Hunger Games, okay? You show up to get the microchip that you put in the wristband that was already hand-delivered to you, so why can't the wristband already have the microchip with, you know, just to make it harder on you. Now, the bags, you're to get one bag, right? Now, the bags have the microchip that gives you your number, okay? It also has money that you can use to then go to one of the 3 stores that are allowed to sell you weapons, okay? The games last an indeterminate amount of times. An indeterminate amount of time, right? It really just depends on how long it takes all of the contestants to track each other down throughout the dual city area, okay, and kill every single one except for the last 2. Once the last 2 are there, the wristbands go, congrats, you are the last 2, go to the Colosseum. And that's when we have the closing of the games, the final battle to the death between the last 2, which is called Jadu, J-U-E-D-O-U, okay, so between the opening of the games and the closing of the games, the players basically run themselves anywhere they want to in the city, right? Okay, they can hide, they can hunt, they can chill out and wait everything out, you know, kind of boring. Now, when they're going everywhere, they are basically being tracked by the security cameras. Now, this is somewhere in between high-tech society where we have, like, these wristbands that can track you, and also, like, I don't know why I got the impression of hologram messages, but that's the impression that I got from these wristbands. But it's also like, you know, not every house has a TV, and we're only using pagers. So, anyway. It's very pixelated security cameras that are supposedly everywhere, but there are a lot of blind spots. There's a lot of blind spots. And you know, this game is supposed to be to entertain the common folk, you know? I don't know how. Because, like, nothing happens most of the time. And also, the pictures are grainy. And also, it's very, very likely that most of the action is going to happen where there's not a security cam present. Like, what if I find you in your house that doesn't have a security camera and kill you there, you know? Anyway, to get the players to interact, they basically will ping their wristbands and be like, yo, you got to play it like 14 meters away from you to the northeast. Okay? And then the other player will also get that one to the southwest, you know? But it's heads or tails whether the players go and fight each other or run away from each other. Okay? Another thing, because jumping bodies is a thing, and this is the only time that it's legal, did I say that jumping bodies was illegal beforehand? Because jumping bodies is illegal. Not allowed. Anyway, during the games, the people who are players can jump, because what are they going to do to enforce non-jumping, especially when they're televising it? Are they going to kill the people in the games for, you know, breaking the rules? No, they're the source of entertainment. They are the bread and circuses of this world. My dogs are going crazy. I apologize. So, because the players can jump bodies or whatever, right? What they need to do is, 1, keep the wristband on whatever body they are now inhabiting, because the wristband is what keeps them in the game, okay? If they don't type their identification number into that wristband once every 24 hours, they are out, disqualified, okay? I'm not going to be able to do this with them doing that, am I? Okay, it's sometime later, like an hour or so. Dogs had to go crazy loud. You know, I have a husky. They're loud, and Sten grew up as a husky raising him. So he is loud in response. So I just kind of sat down in my massage chair, worked out the kinks in my back, and read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I've seen too many video responses for the movie, and they were actually intriguing enough, and I was like, you know what, maybe I will give it a chance. So I'm doing that. Anyway, we are talking about the rules of the game, right? So after the opening of the game, they all run out, they get their numbers, they get their weapons. Kala, no spoilers. Keep only rules of the game. Rules of the game. So, I believe we've already talked about the fact that they have to check in every 24 hours on their wristband by typing in their identification number. The palace is like, yo, they're over there. And then of course, they can either run or go after it. And because it's in the middle of the city, you know, it could take forever if they want it to. So that's the games. Other things with the games. So yeah, because most players can jump, it is required that they keep their wristband on them, check it every 24 hours, right? And then in the newscast, when they're just like, this is what happened today on the murder games, everyone is referred to by their number because, you know, the bodies might be different. And I don't know if they don't want to give away identities or anything, but everyone is referred to by their number between 1 and 88. Okay. Now, some things to think about and note with the games, right? For some reason, there is a leaderboard for the number of kills that you get. It means absolutely nothing. We are told that all it does is like help people make bets, but it doesn't mean anything. Like you could be number 1 with 45 kills and then the lower one on the leaderboard can like take you out. And that's not gonna put them at the top of the leaderboard. They don't absorb your kills, I think. I don't know. They don't really go into it much with the leaderboard. They just go, the leaderboard. I am this place on the leaderboard. Apparently in the history of the games, no one has made an alliance, and Kala and Antony do it, and it's so good that other people start doing an alliance. But people suck at being an alliance and they don't last long. That kind of seems wrong. Like, with 88 people, 88. Like with the Hunger Games, it was what, 12 times 2, so 24? Makes sense that you wouldn't have alliances. And even then, there were alliances in the Hunger Games. There were alliances in the House of Serpent of Wings and Night, or what have you. You know, they're battle games. There's alliances. Big Brother, there's alliances. You know. So it's weird that no one's had an alliance before. Also, you can like leave the games whenever you want, right? You can like not check it on your wristband, you can throw it away, you could lose it. And occasionally, but rarely, other people will steal your wristband and therefore you are out of the games without them murdering you, right? Also, if you think about it, right, everyone's a jumper. They get a new body pretty much all the time, all that stuff. So every murder is technically 2 murders if you think about it, or at least most of them, because the player is going to be using someone else's body that once they leave, supposedly that other person is also going to start using their body again. But if you kill the body that has the 2 keys in it, both keys die. What's up with that? Now, there is a chance in which you can leave the body before it dies and your key survives, right? But your body then becomes like a vessel and it starts healing itself. And I think in the world, the body heals faster without the key. Or does the body heal faster with the ki? I don't know. But a body without ki can still heal itself. Which is like, but the cancer travels with the ki. So why doesn't the mortal wound transfer with the ki? Am I right? Or anyway. That's pretty much all you need to know about the games. You know? They open. They happen over an indeterminate amount of times. Government says they're over there. Go get them. Bye-bye. 88 people play. And then at the final battle, just the two of them in the Colosseum, Jaduo or whatever. Once that's over, they go, when they're witches, they shake hands with the king. And then they go, most of the times, they like make a mansion out in the rural areas and become a lord of a rural area. Some other times, they're just like, I'm gonna pay off my debt and also pay off some of my family's debt. And then within like 5 years, they're back in debt because that's how bad our society is. You know? Granted, in America, the lotto winners who aren't good with their money also end up losing all of their lotto money, but I digress. We're gonna move on. We're moving on to politics and the economy, right? Politics. King Kasa, not a good king. Not good. He likes hoarding his wealth, he likes flaunting his wealth, and he stays in his palace because he is afraid. Now, public, they don't know that he's afraid of Kala. They think Kala's dead. Anyway, the only time he really comes out is for the games, to shake the hands of the winner, and also all royalty eyes are yellow, okay? Now, there's this idea that the royal bodies are more important than the public common person's body, right? So there's this thing where like the royals don't jump bodies that much, and they're told not to because they need to protect their royal body. However, my opinion, question, thing is the gods gave them ki to jump, right? And then the gods also said, you guys who can jump are the rulers of the world, right? So it just doesn't make sense to me that our lore is that the gods blessed you with being the king and also blessed you with the ability to jump. And also blessed you with the only people with yellow eyes, right? Also the crown. You know, the crown supposedly also has ki in it, and the crown that you put on your head can just reject you and be like, no, you're not royal. Supposedly. So, my question is in this world, why are the royals not always jumping? Why do they not have, you know how they used to have like consorts or whatever, like they had their own little prostitutes that they would always go to? Why don't they have their favorite bodies that they take over? You know? Like, that would, in my mind, make more sense. But I digress. So, Kala's family ruled over air, and King Kasa and his adopted family, because I don't know why he has a bunch of adopted kids. I didn't really read into it that much, but all of his kids are adopted. Or his one kid, August. Whatever. King Kasa rules over San. Now, when Kala murdered her entire family and then was also told to the public to be dead, why did a new ruler not appear? Question mark, you know? King Kasa instead absorbed both of the territories and was like, San Ir, I am now the king of both. Which, you know, makes sense. Because absorbing power. But at the same time, you would think that they would want a second ruler, because status quo. Whatever. Also, speaking of the two cities, we get this random side story about a third city that sunk into the river Atlantis style. Now, I don't know if anything's gonna come of that, but I feel it's important to mention because it's stuck in my head. And I was like, are we just building world or is this gonna be important? So there's supposedly maybe a third city. One other thing in this world is the Crescent Society. We don't know anything about this cult. It is a cult for sure, except they live in a pyramid. At least I pictured it as a pyramid. And they're doing some shady stuff, okay? Now, if you read the book, you will see the kind of shady stuff, but really that's all I'm gonna tell you is they're a cult, they live in a pyramid, I think, and they're doing shady stuff. Now, there's also this other kingdom, the Scion, S-I-C-A-N. Supposedly, this other kingdom that San Air defeated forever ago. And they're maybe causing trouble. But that's really it politically. Like, that's really it politically. That's it. So, you know what I mean? Dry political intrigue. Like, it's not there. August thinks that he can do better. He's like, when I become king, I will lower the taxes and I will feed the people and we will make it better. But like, I don't trust him. I don't trust him. So, the economy. Literally everyone, except for the royals, are poor as fuck. Okay? Drowning in debt. I don't think we meet a single person. Granted, we are in, you know, the death games that allow them to pay off their debts. But we don't meet a single person that isn't royal that also isn't in massive debt. Okay? Now, there is a financial district. I lie. We meet one person, but not really. There is a financial district, right? And supposedly, these people have some money. We don't spend any time there, really. We don't develop it. It's just like, yeah, somewhere over there, rich people are. And then Anton also likes jumping into rich people. And that's all we get, aside from royal people and poor people, okay? Now, also the people in the city are so broke that they walk through trash everywhere. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say that trash is literally everywhere, but trash, literally everywhere. Like on the Crescent City pyramid, they have these grates that collect the trash that people throw out of their window. That way it doesn't land on their pretty pyramid. Also, in the city, when the games are going on, the people who are not in the games, my ribbon is just flying everywhere. The people who are not in the games willingly and voluntarily go out into the streets and walk through trash, hoping that they will be invaded by a player and they will either be very hurt or killed in the games, because then and only then will they get healthcare provided by the palace. If they are hurt, they get the healthcare, you know, and if they are murdered, then their family will get like some money. So people willingly are like, please take my body and hopefully you die in it. And I do too. Because that's the only way that they're going to get money. That's the only way they're going to get health insurance. Not health insurance. They don't have health insurance. They're poor. That's the only way that they're going to get health care. Also, did I mention there's trash everywhere? Everywhere. So yeah. Now, last thing before we get into spoilers, I want to talk about identity and body politics, okay? The idea of bodies as a commodity in this thing, right? Because they bring it up so flippantly, but it's also something that would be developed in the world. If you could bounce into whatever body you wanted, like, would you stay in a body similar to yours, be it age, gender, height, all of that, you know? So, they do say one thing on page 95. It is not uncommon for someone to abandon their birth body if there's another vessel they want to take over permanently. Sometimes they'll stumble onto one tossed on the streets. Sometimes two people decide to swap. Usually, though, long-term changes happen after purchasing a desirable vessel for a handsome price on the black market. On a much rarer occasion, there are those who feel secure in their ability to just invade a body and take it over. Okay? No matter the method, it's done persistently throughout Sanair for great and small reasons. If people don't like the way they look, if their birth body binds them to a gender presentation that isn't quite white, if a person's... And then it goes on to, like, the fact that you take your cancer with you and you take your age with you, okay? Love the fact that we're acknowledging trans people in it, but I think we could do more with it, especially since we don't get many people who, like, jump often. I think August doesn't care who he jumps into because he uses them as, like, vessels to, like, do stuff, right? Anton pretty much only specifically jumps into rich guys, okay? She was currently talking to a 15-year-old who typically only jumps into 15-year-old boys. And then Khaled doesn't jump. She does say one thing later in the book or around the same area where it's just like, I've always just been Kala. And I'm just like, is that supposed to be like your attempt at non-binariness? I don't know. Because that's at least how my non-binariness start, was just like, I don't really feel female, but I do feel me. Anyway, moving on. Not moving on. It's like, it's a very interesting idea that we wish we could have explored a bit more, right? Because, like, why build a world with this technique if you're not going to explore what bodies mean to people, right? So, like, what does it cost to sell your body on the black market? One of our side characters said that they sold their body when they were younger to pay off some debt, and now they have a different body or whatever. It'd also be interesting to be like, when you switch bodies, like, how does each body feel? Like, do you feel a difference when your consciousness goes into a different body and takes it over? And also it'd be interesting just to, like, know the mechanics of it. Like, sure, if two people are willingly switching bodies, right? I'm imagining there's a third person there that holds them while they switch and just leave an empty vessel. So it's an interesting concept that we don't do anything with, at least not in this book, especially because we're mostly from Cala's point of view, who does not jump. And then when we are in August's or Anton's point of view, who do jump, it's just like, I throw my things at them and now I'm in their body. There is no, the height changes. I have to change how I hold my body because something, or I went into a body and they have chronic pain and now I experience it, you know? Because, like, if they were to jump into my body, they would have my spinal problems. They would have my chronic pain, right? Also, there's this whole thing where, like, it seems like whatever body they jump into, it can just do whatever they know, right? So if some, you know, martial arts person jumps into my body, are they going to be able to martial art with my body that has never done martial art? Probably not, right? But in this world, it just makes it seem like you jump into a body, you immediately know how to use it, and you can immediately do whatever you knew how to do, right? So, I know that if I jump into someone else's body, I'm not going to know how to use it. For one, height might be different, so my view might be different, where I aim might be different, and, like, what if I jumped into a body of someone who wasn't all legs and core? Like, I wouldn't know how to do an arm person. Like, I wasn't an arm focused. Anyway, yes. There's one quote about bodies being a commodity on page 46. A birth body is not one's own. Bodies can be shed, removed from the self. Bodies belong to everyone but the one who was birthed into it. Though if you're powerful, you might have a greater say on how long you can hold on to it. That's not the one. there it is. People are not attached to their bodies, or rather, bodies are merely another asset to take ownership of, to rob, to borrow, to care for, like apartments and clothes. Which, like, sure, you can say that, but at the same time, royal bodies mean more, and Calla, after / during / before, I don't remember, but it's around the steamy scene, looks up at Anton and is just like, I just hate the fact that I never see the same face on you all the time. So, yeah. That's pretty much the world building. New day, new outfit, new earrings. So, at this point, we're just kind of going to go over the spoilers of everything. Now, I did not take notes on like the plot by plot. Now, I didn't really like take notes expecting to make a video on this. I was not planning on making a video on this thing. I just thought I was going to read the book, it was going to be part of my vlog, and then it'd be part of my wrap up, and that would be it. Unfortunately, I cannot stop thinking about this book and how much I don't like the twists in it, and also just all the other things that we've already talked about. So if you have not read the book yet and you're just here for all the spoilers, unfortunately I do not have a play-by-play for you. Best I can do is Calla enters the games, August knows who she is and immediately intercepts her and says, yo, you win, I'll help you kill the king, let me be king. Done. Anton also enters the games. The games start. There's political intrigue. Most of the fighting happens off screen. There's this one dude, little 15-year-old boy named Enzo, who knows way too much, dies later, don't worry about him. And then there's this other thing with the Crescent Society going on. Don't really know much about that. All I know is that after, battling and like falling in love with Anton, or in the middle of falling in love with Anton, I don't know, Calla is just like, I can't jump. I don't like jumping. We're not going to do it. So instead, she gets really, really badly wounded in the Crescent Society and is out of the games for 10 days. But because August is manipulating things, it's fine. Anton does a bunch of more battling off stage while Calla rests. And then they fall in love, they have a steamy scene, and then Calla begs Anton to drop out, but Anton won't because, I don't know, he's very guilty about Ada being in a coma. Meanwhile, other things is going on. We have this one person from the Crescent Society who has infiltrated like the running of the games while also being in the games. And also there's supposedly this like other kingdom called Scion or whatever coming to infiltrate and is doing like bad things and killing players with the jumper sickness, and then because Anton is not losing the games, Calla's thinking that she can just easily take him out, but August is also telling his bodyguard to go kill Ada for some reason, not really sure, and August is also like, for sure, we're gonna kidnap Anton and make it to where he lives and survives all the way to the final two. That way Calla has to kill Anton after they've like confessed their love for each other, whatever. Final two happens. Anton is just like, please don't do it. We can run away together. Completely ignoring the fact that earlier he was completely was adamant that he wasn't going to get out of the games because, he needs to pay for Ada and his guilt, whatever. So Calla obviously wins, kills him, and then she lops off the king's head, figures out that the servants are all actually praising Calla for killing all of her parents and stuff, and keep telling her after she's woken up and not in jail for killing the king, continuing to tell her to kill the king because, August is now king. Coronation happens, she crowns August, and whoops, it's not August, it's Anton. There you go, spoiler. Now there's one spoiler that I have not talked about because I don't like the twist of it, okay? Now, I feel that this twist that we're about to talk to, and that's the end of the play-by-play, by the way, we're gonna go talk about my feelings of the book. The twist that I don't like is the fact that Calla is not the princess. Calla is some random, no-named, no-locationed peasant girl that at the age of 8 jumped into Calla when Calla was the age of 8, and she has been living in Calla's body for like 15 years. So she is just a random peasant girl in the princess's body. Now I don't like this twist because it kind of gets rid of the political intrigue of, ooh, why is the princess murdering her entire family? What are her plans? And like I've already kind of gone over, I think, because that was 2 days ago, that Calla doesn't have a plan aside from murdering the king. Like, the Calla we know is just like, I'm gonna murder the king, and then I'm gonna get jailed for it, and, you know, that's gonna be that. She has no, like, lasting plan, so even the barest minimum of talking about how monarchy is bad, and how tyrants are bad, isn't developed further than that. Because it's one of those things where it's like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with the problem and an idea of a solution on how to fix it and what you're gonna do after. And her solution is kill the king, and I guess anarchy. Like, and anarchy is fine if we actually talked about why she wanted anarchy, you know? But we don't go into that. So, I don't like the fact that she's not the princess, because I think it'd be more interesting if she was the princess. But if you wanted to keep going with this whole she's a peasant girl, I also don't like the fact that the peasant girl doesn't have a name and doesn't have like a history, because then it's just she's reacting this way because she's a peasant girl and found out that the kingdoms were going to keep encroaching on the rural peasants, which, you know, valid enough. But there is no, like, reason or drive to it. There is no, this is my people that I'm protecting. I am a peasant girl. It is, I am now the princess, I guess. Like, it's, who am I? Well, I've been Calla for so long. I guess I'm Calla. But, like, you could have done more by giving a voice to the peasant crowd and the rural crowd by giving this person that is in Calla's body a name and a history, instead of just being like, I was a poor peasant girl, I don't remember my name, I don't remember my family, and I don't remember where I grew up. Like, I just feel that it kind of decreases the intrigue that our Calla could have, because it's very much like she just did it because she was angry and she didn't know what else to do, so she kept doing it. And she has no follow-through or plan for after this is done. Yet, she would have grown up as the princess and would have grown up, presumably, learning what it's like to be a princess and, like, how her power can affect the world around her. Like, she didn't murder her parents to take over like August is. She murdered them because they were bad. And that's it. Like, at least August has a plan to be a good king, even though I don't trust him. That aside, there are a couple other twists in here that I actually did like. So, let's open up my little notes to see what I wrote. Okay, so one of the things that I super loved, the twist that I liked, even though you know, their setup there is interesting, but I really like that Ada comes back to life. And I also like that it's in such a chaotic way. Like, literally everyone around her explodes and she's like, oh my god, I'm alive. Send me to the palace now. That's really all I can say about it. I know that we are setting her up to be the villain. At least that's what I think, because literally everything that is said about her is that she's a terrible person. Even Anton doesn't say a good thing about her, and Anton is supposed to love her and also be very guilty about the fact that she's in a coma. So, like, August wants her dead, Calla straight up called her a bitch, and Anton doesn't even know who she is anymore because she was in a coma longer than he knew her, you know? So, I'm interested to see how the Ada storyline progresses. I hope she does something cool and interesting. Again, if I had read Antony and Cleopatra, I would probably know, because she's supposed to be Octavia, I think, which is Antony's new wife. But, you know, we'll see how that all plays out. I also really liked the end with Anton jumping into August. Now, world building wise, I don't know if it broke rules. Chloe Gong was really vague on like all of her descriptions except for, hey, there's neon lights from the sex club downstairs. So I don't know really the whole outtrack, the setup for how things went, because with the Anton jumping in to August and taking control of his body, we set up that Anton pretty much never loses, right? We didn't really talk about August. We also set up that jumping can be done without the bright light, and that Anton had a theory of how it worked, okay? I also have a theory that Anton, when he went to go get Calla's sword from the Crescent City, that it wasn't that much of a battle. I think he went in, traded some secrets, and made a deal. And I think he learned how to do it from the Crescent Society and that he's part of it. But that's my theory. No clue if that's correct. Anyway, the 10 feet rule is what bugs me, right? Because you need to see a person and be within 10 feet of them to jump into them. And we know that at the very least, Augustus' platform was raised in the Colosseum. So I don't know distance-wise if that's going to be a problem or if that's going to be a plot hole. Otherwise, I like the fact that Anton did jump into August, because that finally gives Anton the Antony problem of responsibility or love. Because now Anton is the king, you know? But then it also gives Calla, the same problem of responsibility or love. Because I fully believe all of the people also want her to kill who they think is August, the now king. Pretty sure the next book is gonna have Calla being pressured to finish her job and get rid of the monarchy. But again, I really like that. I hope that we do, with the next book, play into responsibility versus love. I hope they get some chemistry and actually show me that they love each other. And also, it'll be, well, he's an adopted brother, so I guess biologically people won't care. And also, like, it raises the question again of, like, ki versus body and, like, the dynamics of that. And also, like, the jumping thing being a gene is where I'm weirded out with, right? Because, like, if the body had the gene, is that important? Or if the ki had the gene, right? Anyway, I don't know. These are probably too deep of questions that we didn't think about, that we should have thought about. I don't know if it'll be addressed. Anyway, the twist that I find sus, that's a different thing. So, you know how I said something about the Scion Rebellion or whatever, and how they're coming in and giving people sickness? Well, according to this book, that's actually Leda who's running a coup, okay? Now, Leda is part of the other four, August, Ada, Anton, and then Leda. Those four were planning on leaving the castle, and then they didn't. August and Lita backed out for some reason. Now, none of this is like told, like we don't know why they wanted to leave and we don't know why they backed out. And I want to explore it and I don't think we will. Anyway, I find it sus that we set up Lita to do this whole cover-up of the Scion. Like, I think it's a cover-up of the Scion Rebellion. I hope that it's a cover-up because I think that having another kingdom coming in and invading and being like, look at you and your weakness politically, let's take over and take over your people by giving them, you know, care. I think that would be really cool to explore. Now, if Lita is a cover-up, cool, great. If that's it, and we, in the next couple of books, or however long this series is, no longer see the jumping game and no longer see Scion as a threat, I'm gonna be a little upsetty spaghetti. Anyway, I don't buy it. However, I did love the jail scene where Lita was like, August, you think that you're gonna be a good king? But it's only gonna last like 2 years. After that, you're gonna go back to taxing the people and hoarding wealth and blah, 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 blah. And I like fully agree, because I did not trust August when he was like, I want to be king and I promise to be a good king. And I was like, doubt. Anyway, like I wouldn't be surprised if we never hear about the Scions again and it just became like a Crescent Society and Otta being like the big threats of the trilogy or whatever it's gonna be. Because by this book, you can tell that Chloe Gong is not good at balancing a lot of things and developing them in a good amount of pages. So it would be best for Chloe Gong to drop the entire Scion threat and drop the whole jumping game, because then she doesn't have to worry about it and she can just focus on developing the other things. So it's like a two sides of the same coin, lesser of two evils thing. I wish that she could juggle all of that, but I think in the time frame she wants the series to be wrapped up and her current ability to juggle a lot of things, it would be better if she dropped them. The Scion Rebellion, that is. Or the Scion Invasion. So yeah. I like the Crescent Society. We don't know anything about them, and I like that. They are intriguing, they are creepy, and they are very cult. We did plant seeds for them to be talked about more. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they're the big bads. Like, I think Otta and the Crescent Society is going to be the big bad of the whole thing, right? So, I am intrigued to see what the next book has entail. Depending on the next book is how I finish on the series. If the next book is as much mess as this one, then we'll probably drop it. But if it does some things, then we'll see how far we can go. Otherwise, other little small nitpicky things with Immortal Longings. That dude with the bodyguards, the rich guy in the jumping game, why was he killed off screen? Why was he killed off page? Honestly, he was so intriguing and I was like, how are they gonna deal with him? Off page, obviously. What? Actual fighting scenes? No, that's not a thing. I know we wrote a book on the death games, but no death games are to be had. Okay, other thing. Again, why did the Palace 4 want to leave? Why did the 2 back out? I don't know. I don't think we're going to find anything out. This just says you would think that we would have a better understanding of what the characters think of each other because we are in their POV, but we don't know anything about them, especially August or Otta. Like, we should have had Anton at least tell us good things about her and not just focus on his guilt. Yeah, so I don't know anything about the characters. I don't know what the other characters think of each other. Like, I'm sorry, Calla and August are working together, right? What do they think of each other? Also, Anton and August grew up together. What's the animosity there? Like, do they like each other? Do they not? They get one conversation together in the entire book. And that's when I think Anton is not even in his proper personality, because for some reason, even though he was just told that Ada is dying, literally, probably gonna be in the morgue in a day, and she was, don't worry, but then she came back. Like, he was like, might as well be happy about things. Like, was that him getting over his guilt? Was that him, like, I don't understand anyone's personalities in this. Like, at most, August was the one that maintained the same personality, and even then, we didn't get a lot of August, and his, like, I want to say that his cunningness for, like, getting Lita was off base, but at the same time, he also was like, I know that one's Calla. So I think he's cunning enough. I don't know if we're gonna get any more of him, because Anton is now August. Is August dead to the story? Or is that going to be a thing? Does Anton's body still reside in the palace? I don't know. Anyway, overall, this book was okay. It was very mid. Again, 2-star rating. If I haven't said that before, I'm giving it 2 stars. It has the ability to be bumped up to 3 if book 2 is better and explains stuff. But otherwise, it's an okay book. It's not something that I'm gonna rush to get like the sequel, you know? Definitely not gonna pay any extra money for it to match. I'll just get whatever one is at the local bookstore, you know? But overall, it is intriguing enough for me to continue. Obviously intriguing enough for me to make however long this video is, because I just had to talk about, like, I have not been able to stop thinking about it, and it's so weird because it's so mid that I should be able to just turn my brain off and be like, forget about it, it's fine. But there's just so many littler things that I wish we'd expanded upon or dropped entirely to focus on other things, that it's one of those things that, like, if I were given this book to edit, like, this would be, okay, let's go back to drafting stage. Let's see how we can make this work a little bit better and focus on the things that we actually want to focus on. Because I don't know what our main focus was supposed to be in this book. Like, was it supposed to be the death games? Because obviously not, that was backgrounded. Was it supposed to be the obsessive love? Obviously not, because that is a slow-ish burn. Like, it develops in the later bit of the book, and I don't believe the love, and I found the steamy scene creepy, and I don't know, like, it wasn't obsessive love. Like, they weren't, you know, that. Was it about political intrigue? Not really, because it shot itself in the foot every time it tried to do political intrigue. You know? Is it commentating on monarchy and poor people and how they're treated? Like, not really. That's just set dressing. So, I don't know what the focus of this book was, and it confused me, and I had to talk about it, and maybe y'all can share some insight if you read it, or if you found something in my ramblings that was important. But otherwise, I will give it to at least the next book. But if the next book is still a disjointed mess, I'll probably drop it after that. Anyway, I think I covered everything. I've had a lot of fun talking about it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you read the book. Let me know if I changed your opinions on it, or if you agreed with anything in the comments below. You know, like and subscribe for more. We've already got our next Crate stuff coming in, so I'm hyped and I'm ready. Otherwise, that's everything. My name's Jessica, and remember, we're all